Hello everyone, thank you so much for joining me today. For today's video, I want to cover Elon Musk's appearance at the World Government Summit in Dubai in the UAE, where he gave a brief 30-minute speech about different topics. And I want to summarize those for you and give you my key takeaways from this conversation. There were, some old information, but also some curious little nuggets that I want to sort of explore with you. So without further ado, let's get started. For today, I have my rocket cursor because we're using a rocket cursor today. So at this presentation, we have reiteration again that Twitter is an accelerant of 3 to 5 years for X. If you're not familiar what X is the everything app, which aims to be maximally useful, entertaining, and trustworthy. And so the idea behind Elon Musk purchasing Twitter in the first place was to try and figure out how to speed up the process to create his own social media app, money app, finance app, entertainment app. And Twitter still, Elon Musk believes, that is an accelerant to that goal by about 3 to 5 years, meaning that it's going to pull that future forward by about that length of time. The other reason for purchasing Twitter that Elon Musk restated again at this presentation was that it's very important to correct the trend of social media. Elon Musk viewed some of the weaknesses around the current social media landscape in the United States, mainly due because it's all the social media companies are based out of one single location. And some of the verbiage that was given at the presentation was around how Silicon Valley shouldn't dictate how they perform, how social media companies perform around different laws and what different jurisdictions have from the standpoint of laws around speech, so on and so forth. Social media should not go above the limits of the law was one of the things that Elon Musk spoke about, that he believes that if social media companies really want to be successful long term, they really shouldn't impose their beliefs onto the population. They should just stay within the confines of the law and just try your best to uphold yourself to those standards, which to me seems like a pretty logical and sensible approach. One of the questions around misinformation was also presented at the meeting, where the host talked about, hey, there is a lot of misinformation on Twitter. How would you deal with this? And Elon Musk covered the community notes feature that Twitter has, which is basically an ability for anybody to cite a certain context or source that could help provide context or additional information or refute a claim on a tweet, and then users would vote on the accuracy of that specific note. One of the concepts that Elon Musk presented was this competition for the most accurate information. So instead of having a single source to try and figure this stuff out, like a fact checker or a group of fact checkers, you allow the public to really compete against each other to figure out what's actually the most accurate. This could have positives and negatives, obviously, but this is one of the concepts that Elon Musk presented, and it's a fascinating one because it's allowing the public to really take part in what truth or perceived truth is. Again, these are all very complex topics, but and I wish we had a more in-depth talk about this, but it was touched on this, and that's really the main thought process behind community notes on Twitter. Another way of maximizing the accuracy of information is continuing to maximizing reputation through verification, which are these blue check marks and these other measures that Twitter is going to put in place, I believe, to try and give importance or rank specific tweets or people based on how often they're blocked, how often they're muted, so on and so forth. Who knows? A lot of this is still being worked out, but one of the main things that Twitter is working on is to try and make as many people as verified as possible through that blue check mark, and making sure that community notes are working in tandem with that to really try to maximize the accuracy of information. So that's how Elon Musk and Twitter are approaching this specific topic. There was also a question around how governments can use Twitter. Best use Twitter for the civilization. A comment was made around how the people of a country or jurisdiction are the customers to the government. Governments should use Twitter as much as possible, is what Elon Musk said. Try to go out there and speak with the people that hired you, essentially, as much as humanly possible, so you keep them in the loop. There was another comment around how everyone should speak in their own voice and be authentic, which I love to hear that. I'm a huge believer in that myself, and I try to convey that as much as possible on this channel. And I think this is a very big turn from how folks in those positions, like in government or say CEOs of companies, typically behave. They're very sort of closed down and they appear as if they're not really that person. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. And I think Elon Musk is a perfect example of somebody that at least appears to be the opposite, which I think is a great thing. And it was briefly discussed on this discussion as well. There was also a comment around how criticism is very important. And Elon made a comment around how he gets attacked on social media all the time, on Twitter specifically, and he doesn't mind it. It just comes with what it is. It comes with the arena. It's good to develop a thick skin, but obviously criticism also allows you to find weaknesses in a specific argument or something you're doing. So it was cool to hear that as well at this specific meeting. If you like the content so far, I would love it if you throw me a like. It helps the YouTube algorithm show this to more people. Thank you very much. I remember to put this in the slides. Usually I have to go to the end, record, and put it in. But now I put a slide in, and hopefully it stays this way. There was a comment around how best to, there's 150 governments in the world, 150 countries that were being represented at this forum. And there were some conversations around how we can all sort of work together. And one of the comments that Elon Musk made that was very interesting here is that we should be concerned about becoming too similar, meaning that we don't really want this quote unquote one world government, because it creates this one single point of failure, essentially. So if this sort of direction of trying to homogenize everything and make it similar fails, then all of us fail with it. And so the thought process is, if we have civilizational diversity, so if civilization diversity exists, that would be an important thing, because again, you don't have that single point of failure, and you allow really different cultures and different ways of thinking to arise, in essence, in competition with each other to see which one is best for humanity. And of course, Elon Musk was clear in saying this, that this doesn't mean war, but there should be some sort of competition. There was the host made a very interesting comment here where he said, I agree and disagree with you, but we don't have swords anymore. We have nuclear weapons, which may be delicate. Like, it brings a sort of, I don't know how delicate this sort of topic is, maybe around some circles, around how having diversity of thought, diversity of cultures is important, obviously. But at the same time, if it gets too, if there's too much conflict and it gets kind of crazy, then if somebody has a weapon that could cause mass destruction and they do it in order to defeat the other side, then we could have a huge problem. But then on the other side as well, if everybody's the same and that same thing is not good, then all of us are screwed, right? So it's like, oh man, it's such a fascinating topic to talk through. And I would love to hear your thoughts about this in the comment section. Obviously, let's keep it respectful, but this is like, I wish there was a 3-hour podcast on this specific thing, because this is like what I think about constantly, especially in this new age of artificial intelligence, and how, there's a lot of conflict in the world, instability in some places, the war in Ukraine and Russia, some tension with China, stuff like that. Just fascinating stuff. I wish there was more time given to this. There was also a comment around Twitter and Elon's time at Twitter. Elon expects the Twitter CEO to be named by the end of this year. It seems like a little bit of let's push the ball down the road a little bit. But it does seem like there's clear work being done to get there. The main thing here is that Elon wants to get Twitter stable, meaning from a financial standpoint. And he's mentioned this engine of engineering before, that essentially it becomes a self-sustaining sort of place where Elon doesn't have to give it as much attention as he does right now, that it becomes sort of this self-running company. And he expects this to happen by the end of the year. And it kind of lines up with some of the previous comments he made around how he thinks there is a clear path for Twitter to become profitable at some point. So these timelines line up, and it seems like end of 2023 will be where a lot of people would expect Twitter to have a new face, and for Elon to sort of remove himself a lot more from Twitter and focus on other things. There was also discussion around concerns around AI safety. This is not new to Elon, obviously. He's been talking about this for 1,000 years, it seems like. And having the forum that he had at this meeting with all the different world government leaders and stuff, he really made it a point to describe how much concerns he has around AI safety. And he called, again, for regulation on this. meaning that world governments should seriously consider putting in regulatory bodies for AI safety, similarly to how we have it for air travel and transportation on the road as well, with cars and trains and so on and so forth. And that being reactive to these things will be too late. One of the examples he gave is like, with the seatbelt on the car, it took 10 to 15 years to force auto manufacturers to put it in. People died. But it wasn't the entire population. With AI safety, you could put it to a point where if you're reactive to AI safety, then you could be in a situation where it has done so much damage that it's irreversible, or you can't survive the years past that damage. So that's why being proactive in this, Elon Musk believes, is extremely, extremely important. And I would have to agree with him. I just did a video with John Gibbs from Dr. Know-It-All that he's going to publish at some point, probably in the next couple of days. You should go watch it. We did a experiment with ChatGPT. It was mind-blowing, crazy. There was also a question about education. Elon Musk said that education should focus on critical thinking and hands-on experience instead of some of the systems that are around in the world, especially in the United States. I would argue that the public education system here could use improvement. It's great, especially compared to many other countries, but there are some obvious weaknesses, and something like this I think would make a lot of sense. I would 100% agree with that statement. There was a question around how much Elon Musk limits social media for his own kids. And Elon said that he didn't really limit social media and that he somewhat regrets not limiting it. He wished he did it a little bit differently for his kids. He made a comment around how a lot of children are being, or his children are being programmed by YouTube and Reddit, which basically means, hey, I'm going on Reddit and YouTube and absorbing whatever is there, which is fascinating because kids have very malleable brains, and just fascinating to think through it and how he's approached this specific issue with his own children. So we got some insight there. And then he talked about his workload, that it's obviously still quite high from the looks of it. He still gets 6 hours of sleep though. So for those of you that are concerned about his sleeping habits, he's getting at least 6 hours. He should be getting 8 or 9 ideally, but 6 hours ain't too bad. And he is aspiring to bring down his workload. So he's not just focused on working as hard as humanly possible. He wants to bring down his workload, which is obviously great for his health. And anybody who's working insane hours, I would recommend you do the same. Been there, done that. Not pretty. There was also a comment around Tesla and SpaceX not requiring Elon's undivided attention for progress, which I think is a huge signal that says that the leadership teams at these companies are quite self-sufficient. And if the companies are still making progress to the expectations of the leader, in this case being Elon Musk, then it means that there are things that are working. There are things that are working in the company, which bodes really well for the long-term success of these companies once Elon decides to step down and sort of go on to his own thing. Who knows, a decade or two from now, or never, who knows, maybe Elon Musk will live forever. So that's a pretty big signal. And then lastly, he was asked about the UFOs that flew around the North America region here, if these are aliens or not. And then Elon Musk very quickly said, no aliens. So for anybody that was wondering, he doesn't believe those were aliens. Sorry. My key takeaways from this conversation, there's really 3, and obviously they were covered here, but maybe if I expand on them a little bit more. Twitter is stabilizing and reaching its goals, yet slowly. We've gotten a lot of verbiage around how Twitter has the most users it's ever has. There's a CEO that's going to be put in place by the end of the year. There's clear progress towards those goals. There's an acceleration of the end goal of this app, which is that X app that will do everything. Twitter probably was the play to just get the network effects, get that user base, and then slowly iterate over time. Those are my dogs. And now that Elon Musk has reiterated that Twitter is making progress towards these goals, I think should maybe make Tesla investors a little bit more at ease that there is work being done for him to be really just quote unquote refocus back on Tesla and SpaceX if there's a perceived lack of focus. I do think that he's been able to manage this quite well in the last few months here. There was a lot of craziness once the Twitter acquisition was announced, and there was a huge stock drop. And, people were, I think, rightfully concerned about sort of where he's at and sort of his health and how focused he is on things, because the visibility was a little lackluster. But I think that comes to the fact that I think people trust Elon, and he has a very good track record of executing at a very high level. And I think the latest sort of public appearances and how Elon Musk has been presenting himself and his different things is, I think, giving a lot of confidence to more people could explain why the stock has rebounded the way it has. But I think ultimately my concern is for his health, and I hope he's doing everything he can to live the best life he can, just like I wish for anybody else. Okay. But it's good to hear that Twitter is stabilizing and reaching its goals. That's fantastic to hear. Along those same lines, he seems to be aware of self-prioritization. So I think his comment around, I don't really want to work this many hours. I'm trying to get back to a more reasonable 80-hour work week, which I guess is normal for the guy, is important to him. And he said he doesn't recommend these crazy long hours for anybody else. So that tells me that Elon is trying to put things in place to automate Twitter, to get the right teams in place so that it's, again, a self-sustaining company, just like Tesla and SpaceX are starting to become, if not have already become, which I think, again, are huge developments for those companies, because it basically puts those guys into the trajectory to reach their goals, which is really my last point here. Tesla and SpaceX are becoming self-operating machines. These two companies now, if they don't require Elon Musk to continue to make progress, this is great for the long-term goals of those companies. Having Elon Musk there obviously will accelerate. We will create new ideas that weren't there before because of sort of his ability to be a kind of visionary, Steve Jobs-like person, however you want to call him. He's obviously important for the really long-term success of the company. But if the companies in Tesla and SpaceX are in a place where they will reach their goals eventually, at the current rate, then this is a great development, not just for investors for these companies, but also for people that are fans of these of the missions for these two entities, and obviously for Elon Musk himself, because then he can really focus on the things that he wants to focus on instead of always being in survival mode. So those are my takeaways. Let me know what you think. I would love to hear your thoughts below in the comments section. What do you think about the speech, the presentation? What do you think about my points? I would love to hear your comments below. And then if you'd like to support the channel, I would encourage you to click join right below this video, which will give you access to my private Discord, which has my awesome community where we love to talk about things that are happening in the future, Tesla, SpaceX, AI, Elon Musk, whatever. Just a lot of techie, nerdy stuff. So do consider doing that below. If you want to support the channel by purchasing some merch, just like the shirt I'm wearing right now, the robots are coming, y'all. They're coming. Use the link in my description below as well for my merch store through my website. And I also have a code for Athletic Greens, which is a supplement that I use every single morning, which has truly made me feel better. Code for that as well in the description. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this video was valuable and informative, and we'll see you in the next one. Take it easy, everybody. Bye-bye.